about yesterday, and you were mentioning about that lineup you're about to put in.
Yeah. I posted basically just like last second, like a couple lineups that I quickly had a chance to do basically at a road stop on the way to escape the flooding in Santa Barbara. And for a minute, it looked like both lineups were actually going to do really well, especially my DraftKings lineup, because I basically just had the early chalk, which was, mostly pretty good. And with Avdia, and then I had the De'Aaron Fox, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart in the late game, at reasonably low ownership on each. Fox had like 18%, but it just wasn't the right game. He didn't get, didn't get there, but ended up just missing the cash line, literally like bubbling the cash line in the big one. But for a second, it looked like it might have actually had a shot because, only took 315 points won last night. So if I could have gotten a little more fight back from Sacramento in that Boston game, I think I might have had at least a little bit of a fighting chance to make some sort of a run. But sorry not to be there yesterday, guys. I'm going to load my content up this afternoon. I'm going to drive back up to Santa Barbara. I went down to LA to get away from the flooding. So I'm ready to get into this giant slate. And then we've got the fun night sweat tonight.
Yeah. So the one good thing that I did, I have to thank Clay. I think Clay Davis, whoever was in the live chat for. Well, he didn't have me do this play, but he mentioned that, hey, could I go over FanDuel? And the one thing that I noticed on FanDuel that was different than DraftKings was that Marvin Bagley was a much better play on FanDuel, and he was rated to be like 50% owned. And I keep hearing you in the back of your head saying, well, might as well just play him on DraftKings now.
Right.
So I did a little of that, and he totally smashed it, like 8% on DraftKings.
Isn't that wonderful when that happens? That's what I like. It's funny because I won. We didn't talk about this, but I won the 10K that I finished second in the Monster the night before last.
Yeah.
I think you saw that, right?
Yes.
But the interesting thing was, he didn't even have a good game, so it seems like a weird play. But what allowed me to get there and force in all these value plays that all crushed was I played. Jalen Green was 70-something% owned on DraftKings, and I think he was like 9% owned on FanDuel that night. So I did the exact same thing that you were just referring to, like because of the price difference. Hey, if you're going to do it on one side, just do. You know what I mean? Like if you're talking about like a $900 price difference or a little bit of a trickier spot where it changes a guy from being 60% owned to 10%, you probably should be trying to lean into that 10%. Basically, is what I was going to say. And how is your golf starting before we get into this big slate?
It's good. So I ended up with 70% of JJ Spawn somehow at the flat minimum, and he's +1 over Fitzpatrick after like 8 holes. He was like +3, so he's kind of struggling now. But that would be actually really be a good start to say the least.
Yeah.
But it was funny that you weren't here because we've had the same debate that we had last year. I don't know if you saw it within the.
I saw it in the Discord, and I talked to Kenny a little bit last night about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, because you don't want to like ruin your lineups by just trying to be perfect when no one's going to be perfect. So right. It would have been interesting, but nonetheless, ready to handle today.
Okay, let's get into it. All right, so we got to, this is the first really big slate I feel like we've dealt with in a while. And at first glance, we definitely have value, but it's going to be a lot of speculative and a lot of trickiness going on. We have some teams that are now basically on the outside looking in on the playoffs, like Portland's basically going to give up on their season. They're going to tank hard for the rest of the year is my guess. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure, but like right now, they have Lillard in right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I would imagine if Damian Lillard plays tonight, this may be the last game he plays this season.
Why?
There's no motivation. There's nothing for them. They're basically on the out. It's going to be very, very difficult for them to make the playoffs. And this is something I've been waiting to try and capitalize on. So if there's no news, I'm going to until I'm right, pretend that Damian Lillard is not playing. They're technically 3.5 games back of the 10 spot.
Wait, how many games are left? Like 2?
There's 11 games left. So 11 games left. They're 3.5 games back, and they have to chase down 4 or 5 teams, basically, depending on how you look at it. They also have a chance at getting so basically, if they end up with the 5th or 6th worst record in the NBA, they'll end up with a 12% chance of the number 1 pick. So it's a huge deal for them to tank right now, and I think that's what they're going to do. I hope they don't announce Lillard news today. I'm going to pretend that he's out every slate until I hear for sure that he's in, unless they're at home. If they were at home tonight, I would probably say, okay, maybe he plays. But right now, I'm going to pretend that. I'm not saying I'm right. Just that's my early take on it. They've talked about it. They've talked about sitting him for the rest of the season. I mean, it's pretty hard to make up those 3-4 games in the loss column when you've got to track down a bunch of teams to do it. So they basically they'd almost have to win out right now to make it. Maybe they could lose one more game if they wanted to try to make it. Even then, what are you playing for? So just something to keep an eye on, and something that I am going to pretend as if it's a fact until I have a reason not to. That's just my personal take.
Well, I mean, we could talk about that right off the bat because, these Portland guys, as it stands, are not bad plays.
Right.
I'm looking at Shaedon Sharp as, not the greatest value in the world, but so far the second best point per dollar play on the slate. Not that much, but if Lillard gets ruled out after some games go off, then yeah, you're going to be really sharp having saved him. That's sharp. You're going to be really a sharp player having saved Sharp for later. Not to mention, the other usage pickups like Nurkic, for example.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. When is that the last game, the Portland game? Yeah, I mean, pretty close.
Yeah, the only thing is the flip side of what I'm saying is if Lillard plays, he becomes maybe the best value play on because it's all or nothing, right? You're going to get every single bit of him doing every single thing he can, or you're going to get none of him at all. That's what I see. Or maybe they struggle, and even in the last game, he put up 45 fantasy points on 4 of 17. His usage is outrageous. They just can't win a basketball game. So maybe maybe they do continue to take their stand. But either way, I just wanted to point out that that's the kind of stuff that you look for at this time of the year that maybe you can get an edge on. But again, my guess is later today, you'll probably either have news that he's confirmed that he's going to play or that he's not going to play. Unfortunately,
but there wouldn't be news confirming he was going to play because he's not on the injury report.
Okay, that's true, but there's a lot of talk. I'll do some scavenging a little bit later on, and we'll have that more ready for live, I guess. But I do want to keep an eye out for these things because
if he does get a late questionable, he's out.
If he gets any questionable at all, I'm treating him as I already treat him as if he's out. But the problem is if he plays again, maybe the best spend up on the slate. So it's a little tricky to try and navigate this. Anyway, we can go game by game, but just want to point out that these slates are all going to be very, very unique coming down the stretch here for different reasons. So I'm going to be very focused on the standings and how the teams that are tanking now are not the teams that are. That's what makes it tricky. It's not the bottom. It's not the worst 4 teams. They're all set. So it's all the other teams that are trying to jockey for tanking position because going from 7% to 12% is a huge difference when you talk about the best player since LeBron coming out of high school this year. So it's a pretty big deal. Actually, a lot of people who say that he's a better prospect than LeBron. So that's kind of crazy. All right. So we move on. So Sheets, talk about Denver and Washington here. It looks like you put Jokic in there. He seems like a perfectly reasonable play to me.
Yeah. I mean, him, Giannis, and Lillard, those are the 3, assuming Lillard plays. Those to me are the 3 top spend ups. I have them ahead of both Embiid and Luka, but we'll get there, I guess. But I definitely like Jokic. And if you don't go the spend up route, if there's no value that opens up, then I imagine that Jamal Murray is a good play at 7,700. So it depends on which way you want to go. I wouldn't play them both. But I think that one of those 2 is perfectly reasonable here. And on the other side of this game, I mean, Beal had a bad game the last game. Porzingis has been pretty solid when he's been in there. So hey, if you want to play Jokic and Porzingis, get your day off going, or kill your day pretty quick. I mean, you could try that. I don't see too much value aside from those plays, though.
So Jokic, Denver's really has been really, really bad down the stretch lately. Jokic basically has lost himself the MVP. And it's pretty certain now that it's going to go to Embiid just with what Philly's been doing. And good. I have to say, I'm still very proud of that call. But Jokic is, I think he's okay tonight because they're trying to get it together. It's going to be hard for. I mean, they're gonna win the West. They're 4 games up. They've only got 10 left to go. They're going to win the West. So pretty soon we're going to talk about that, like them like resting and taking it easy. But I think they're trying to find themselves again because they've really been ugly lately, and all the odds on them and everything, and everybody's talking just makes me feel like Jokic or Murray, like you said, would be a good play today. Coming at it from a little bit of a different angle today, but I have the same thing you do. I'm completely good with. I like the Porzingis idea. Why don't we go back to Avdia here? I really think that there's upside for him. We saw it a little bit last night. Now I know he got off to a hot start shooting, but he played down the stretch. He ended up closing, and he played 33 minutes, put up 37 fantasy points. I think he's an interesting GPP play, and I think he'll have zero ownership again. He was my one way of getting different yesterday, and he paid off. So I'm definitely giving him a look today at 5,400, and I think he might look like more of a play on FanDuel for people, but I'm willing to take that shot. Both Porzingis and Beal, just for what it's worth, Washington wants to make the playoffs. They're not going to probably. They're a game and a half out of the 10th spot, but I think you're going to see their best foot forward for the rest of the season. And you don't have any Kyle Kuzma, so I'm trying to think of like whether it's Porzingis, Avdia, or if you want to take a Bradley Beal play. All 3 of those guys are on my early list of guys I'm considering. But again, being the first game, probably going to end up lower on these guys later in the day. All right, what do you got with your Knicks and Miami here?
Probably nothing. I mean, Bam as usual projects okay. And I just need to ask, Butler. It depends on what he wants to do. You know what I mean? Like if is this the Butler game or not? Whatever that, you know what I mean? I don't really have too much in this game though. I mean, you want to play Randall? I mean, I guess. I don't know. I think this game's probably going to be close to a pass.
Yeah, as much as I hate playing point guards against the Heat, Jalen Brunson at 7,300 at least is enough to make your eyes sort of pop up. I think that's a completely reasonable play. And you mentioned like Kyle Lowry should be coming back tonight. Now I'm not going to play him probably, but he's 3,900 sheets. I mean, and by the way, when guys come back for the Heat, there's no such thing as minutes restrictions for these guys. If they come back and they play for the Heat, they almost always just go back into their normal role. But everybody looks too cheap on Miami to me. Bam is 7,800 in a good matchup. That's interesting. Lowry's 3,900 and Jimmy Butler's 8,400 in what should be a competitive game. And the Heat are definitely in that must win. So the Heat right now are the 7th seed in the East. Obviously, you want to stay out of the 7 through 10. You want to get up to the 6. They're 1 game back of the Nets. I think you're going to see the best foot forward. So I love Jimmy Butler as a tournament play. At first look, like when I first, was building mock lineups last night, actually, Jimmy Butler was like one of the first guys I plugged in. I'm not sure I'm going to stick with that, but as of right now, Butler and Brunson are my 2 favorites from this game.
Well, hold on. What are we doing here? Like, are you telling me that like Lowry's back and like starting and playing full minutes? I mean,
but even when he wasn't getting there. But yeah, my guess is that he's projected to play what? My guess is he plays 28 minutes, but because even when he was starting before, it wasn't like he was playing like 40 minutes, except for when Butler or Bam or those guys were out.
Okay.
So because they've incorporated Vincent a little bit, I just feel like his minutes are more in flux. But I think he will play most. I think he'll get 28 minutes, and that's 3,900 is pretty reasonable. Also probably makes Kevin Love a little less interesting, but not that he was that interesting anyway. But just always a guy at 4K I'm interested in a little bit if he was going to play 20 minutes. Yeah, I think I think Lowry, Butler, Bam are all in play. Just going to have to wait to see how the report shakes out. Caleb Martin's questionable, which is kind of like sneaky big news because he plays a lot of minutes. If he's out, just give a boost to all those guys and maybe Kevin Love as well. All right, what do you got for the next game? It's you have Toronto and Indy, right?
Yeah. As far as I'm looking now, another kind of pedestrian game as far as team guys that stand out here. The best I can do, and this is what I do sometimes. Like if you force me to play one guy from this game at like point per dollar or whatever, I guess Scotty Barnes would be my best play. But aside from that, I don't really have much here.
I don't know what to do here. One of the hardest teams I can't figure out is the Pacers. They have a chance to make the playoffs also, but I don't know that they want to. And you could see it in the fact that they're not just playing them, like giving every minute to McConnell like they were before. Because that would be like, if we would have, we actually have Halliburton projected to play. I thought Halliburton was going to be out. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I guess that does make this game just basically a no-go. With the exception, I mean, like taking a shot on Miles Turner at 7,100, no problem with it, but like nobody I'm going to prioritize. If Halliburton's out, though, I think we should revisit this later. No one played McConnell the other day with Halliburton out. He didn't really get there, but I think that he's a better play maybe than he gets a little credit for. I just don't know what they want to do. That's where I'm really struggling with them. And everybody on Toronto is very affordable looking, but nobody that I really love. Like you said, Scotty Barnes probably being my favorite. But I'm not going to argue. It's such a good matchup. I'm not going to argue if you play any of the starting five or do we have what's his name tonight? I'm trying to take a quick look here. Or yeah, Gary Trent's priced up a little bit. But yeah, all of Toronto guys are like I have as like all reasonable plays, but nobody I'm like desperately trying to get or anything like that. All right, Golden State and Dallas. I'll go real quick on this one. I don't have a whole lot that I love. I think that you could certainly make an argument for Curry. You could make an argument for Clay, and you could make an argument for Draymond, and I would be fine with all of those arguments. If Draymond is out, he's probable right now, so I don't think he's going to be out. There's a world where Jordan Poole has a game tonight. I'm just not going to personally be that person who has it. And I think that, you've got Luka and Kyrie questionable. If Luka doesn't play, I like Kyrie. If they both play, I'm not interested particularly, although I would probably take one or two shots on Luka and like larger field stuff. But mostly I'm basically just off this game, which is weird because it's got a big total. Feels like maybe should be some interest. But if everybody plays, I'm not all that interested. How about you?
Well, as usual, the question with Dallas is who's playing. I mean, they're both listed as questionable. So, I mean, if either of them plays without the other one, I'd probably play that person. I think if they both play, I'll probably play neither. On Golden State, I think I'm looking through my board here, and I just don't like anybody today. So when I was gonna say, Curry, but maybe he's a good play. Jokic, I like. I'll get to Giannis. I guess I like both of them, but everybody else, it's like I don't really know how much I really love anybody. So when you go down to Curry at 9,700, probably be low owned. I think it's totally reasonable. So I'm kind of with you as far as my sentiment on this. You know what I mean? Like Curry's fine, Draymond's fine, Clay, the Dallas guys, but it's not like this is like the game you have to target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's for what it's worth, this is an ESPN game. And also like both these teams have a ton to play for right now. They're both trying to get like the Warriors are a half game back behind the Mavs for the 6th spot, which is the 6th spot is like what the 8th spot used to be. You know what I mean? It means you're in the playoffs. You don't have to do the play-in. So this is a really, really big game. I think if Luka's able to walk, he'll play. But I've thought that before and I've been surprised he hasn't. But like you said, yeah, Curry, and then Kyrie, if no Luka. But I don't really see anything else for DFS purposes that's all that intriguing. All right, let's move over to what do you have for the first 8 o'clock game?
So Philly, Chicago, they just played this the other day, and they went to I think double overtime. And the big guys did okay. I mean, Embiid and Vooch for the other side. I mean, Vooch had a nice game, but I mean, it took him 100 minutes to get there. As far as like raw points too, I mean,
he had 20 fantasy points in the first 4 minutes.
Right. Well,
it looked like he was going to smash.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then it was a very low scoring game for double overtime as well. In general.
Yeah, it was a really low scoring game.
So I don't know. I mean, I happen to have Embiid just rated a little worse than the top guys. So I'm probably not going to get there. Vooch, I think, is probably the best play from this game. he's again that mid range where I think I might end up having to go. And like you said, he had 20 fantasy points the first 4 minutes. Let's have we start off with that again? That'd be nice. I'll take my chances. So I do kind of like that. And aside from that, nothing, I guess.
Yeah. Caruso's health makes a little bit of a difference, I guess, because Kobe White is kind of a borderline whatever value play. And if Caruso plays, like, I guess you could consider, I don't know. It's an important game for both teams. Chicago's really trying to make the playoffs. They don't have their pick, so they are desperately trying to make the playoffs. And Philadelphia, since we've made our bet, by the way, has not lost a game. They've been the best team in the NBA, and
Let's go Clippers.
I also have them to win it from before the season, from mid-season. So they're my team. We see the Clippers and the Clippers, by the way, have been red hot as well.
Let's go Clippers.
So we've got but I think that Embiid and Vooch are my two favorite plays here. I just want to point out that Vooch is 3 games against Philly this year. I know there was double overtime in the last one, so let's just throw that out. His 2 previous games, he put up 65 and 55. This guy absolutely has always torched, especially in Philly, except for last season. But every other year of his career has basically been really, really good against these guys. More so in Philly. I do think Vooch is a strong tournament play. He'll be unowned again. So I do like Vooch. I think when it comes to Embiid and Jokic, I'm giving a slight lean to Embiid, but I don't think it's a massive one. I think it's just very close between those two. All right, you have Houston, Memphis, or Atlanta, Minnesota?
I have Houston, Memphis.
Okay. All right, you want to go with this one?
Yeah. So this is where a lot of value is at least showing up for now, and it's on the Memphis side. As a matter of fact, 3 of the top 4 overall point per dollar plays, at least for me, are coming from this game. That would be Conchar, David Roddy, and Desmond Bane from Memphis. As far as Houston goes, again, we have to see what's what. We have to see who's playing. I mean, right now it doesn't look like anybody's questionable, even except for Tate, who's out. So I think with all these guys in, I think they're kind of fairly priced. Porter 81, Jalen 71. I mean, all these guys. And Tari Eason finally, gave him a price bump, 6,100. So I guess the 3 Memphis guys: Conchar, David Roddy, Desmond Bane. Let me see if there's anybody else that can actually put up some more fantasy points. No, not really. So I actually have Ja as not that great a play tonight. Is that a mistake? I mean, like, are we supposed to just play him like a mad Ja Morant coming back? You know what I mean, against a bad defensive team?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Okay.
I think I don't know that they're going to give him his full run because of conditioning and all that stuff. And they actually made a comment about conditioning. But I think if you told me I had to play 2 lineups right now and I had to enter them in big buy-in tournaments, I think he would be in one of them. You know what I mean? I don't think that I would lock him into anything. I'm not saying that it's a guarantee, but at 9,200, even in 30 minutes against Houston, that could easily be 60 fantasy points. It just feels like we're getting a bargain. And for what it's worth, by the way, they don't always win, but since Houston has sort of clinched one of the worst spots, they've been competitive, man. These guys These guys have been competing. They've been battling with good teams, and they're 5-5 in their last 10. That's a big deal for them. So I expect them to try to play their best. Şengün and Jalen Green are my 2 favorite plays from Houston. I don't know that I'll end up with either one of them, but they're my 2 favorites. And then Conchar and Ja are my 2 favorites from Memphis. I think that everybody else on Memphis is Aldama, completely playable. Xavier Tillman, completely playable. David Roddy. The problem is Roddy, Kennard, Conchar. Trying to decide between those guys is kind of tricky because I think that Houston's going to let whichever one's sort of hot keep going, or whoever they're playing well with. If there was blowout run, it would probably go to Kennard and Roddy more than Conchar, but it probably would get some Conchar as well. So I'm just having a little bit of a hard time deciding on the value. I'll have more stuff for you guys ready when we go live at 6 Eastern. I'd like to get a better feel for who they're going to play, because we don't usually see Brandon Clark missing games. So I'm kind of curious to see who ends up picking up the slack. And maybe all those guys are a little bit over projected, is I guess my other thought. One of them probably gets there, but probably not all three. All right. San Antonio, Milwaukee, Sheets. What do you got?
Well,
oh wait, did we do Atlanta, Minnesota? Oh, never mind.
We didn't get there yet.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, we got Giannis, who's a good play. I think his upside is limited by the game flow in this one. That would be the only thing that limits his upside. Is what I was trying to say. I presume it's a double-digit spread. I don't have it up here, but it's got to be.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a risk. I mean, there's no reason to play him 38 minutes if they don't have to. So that's the risk. I mean, so do you like him better than Jokic? I mean, all else being equal, listen, you told me it was a close game, and they needed him and they played him full run. I mean, like there's Giannis against San Antonio, give it to me. You know what I mean? But there's definitely a risk there. I don't have anything else. Like I was expecting to see some of the normal San Antonio values show up, but it's just not showing up. I guess guys are back. So
you've got 5, 6, 7 questionables on San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
I just have no idea who's playing. And I told you this, the San Antonio value. I mean, like outside of Mamu, when that value shows up, just be very, very wary that you might be getting absolutely nothing. I mean, like last night we just saw everybody play minutes, and I know they were getting killed, but even before that, the minutes just sort of divide out. They play like 11 guys, and nobody really plays a bunch of minutes. And Trey Jones should be out tonight. I don't know what to do with San Antonio. I will revisit this one later because with 7 guys questionable, it's kind of hard to know what to do. And I assume that Sohan, Zach Collins, and Vassell play tonight, and Keldon Johnson. But does that mean we know Trey Jones probably doesn't play? But does that mean Devontae Graham, Bates Diop, Branham, do they play? Like, I don't know. And San Antonio is really weird. San Antonio sneakily has actually been feisty as well. I know they got smoked last night, but they're 5-5 in their last 10. Now that the wins and losses don't really matter. I don't expect them to stick around too long here, but we've seen a lot of teams hang around games that didn't seem like they would hang around lately. Milwaukee is a 17.5-point favorite. That's the only reason, like you said, the only reason why you wouldn't play Giannis. It's a great matchup. I have Giannis rated a little bit below the other two, below Embiid and Jokic. That's where I've got him, but not by much. Very, very close between all three. How about Atlanta, Minnesota for you?
Yeah, so I went for a long time yesterday discussing whether I thought DeJounte Murray was going to be a good play, and then he got ruled out. It says here he's questionable again, and if he doesn't play again, then Trey's going to be a smash again. That's what it is. I mean, at least in theory. I mean, he didn't blow the cover off the slate last night. As a matter of fact, they didn't even have to put him in the fourth quarter, but they did anyway.
Right.
He could have busted pretty hard last night.
Yeah.
I don't see that as being a limitation tonight if that's what ends up happening, because it is a back-to-back and spread's probably pretty close. But I mean, they did play him a bunch of I guess more minutes last night. So where's Atlanta? Does Atlanta have to win every game?
I mean, they're in the they're in the 8th spot right now. They're not going to move up to the 6 because they're 4 games back of the 6, but they definitely would, you'd rather host the home playoff, or you'd rather be in the 7-8 rather than the 9-10. So they're going to try to win every game. That's for sure.
So I presume that if DeJounte Murray doesn't play, there's something wrong with him, So we'll see about that. But nothing here is really, really standing out except for, that possibility of Murray being out again. And then if he's out, then all these other guys from yesterday, like Capella, Trae Young, Bogdan, they all look pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, Gobert is looking kind of cheap at 7,200. Aside from that, not much. So again, mid-range builds, you're going to play Gobert and maybe Bogdanovich if these guys are out or whatever. If you want to spend up, you'll play for Trey. Do you like DeJounte Murray if he's in? I guess that's a reasonable question. I
think it's fine. It's not like I'm trying to get to him. I think right now I have Trey and Sadiq Bey as my 2 guys of interest on Atlanta. I'm open to John Collins as well. Those are the three guys I'm sort of like looking at, but nobody who immediately stands out, and with unless DeJounte's out. With Minnesota, I think that both Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert are very good plays, assuming that Edwards does in fact play. Even though Karl Anthony Towns will be back, I think that the price is still right for Edwards, and I think they're going to run it through him anyway with Towns back. And I don't think anyone is going to play him because of the Towns being back factor. So I do like Edwards, and I do like Gobert, even with Cat back. All right. Moving on to Portland, Utah. So this is my big speculation game. And look, if we have no news or you don't hear it from anybody by tip off, maybe we can assume that Lillard is a full go, I guess. My two schools of thought though are like literally he'll not play at all, or he's going to go completely nuts and take every shot. And I think that that one of those is probably going to be the case. I just don't know which one it is right now. Either way, Shaedon Sharpe still rates to be a pretty good play. Maybe a little bit of too high of a projection on SaberSim at least, but I do like Sharpe. And look, I might play these late games, so I might have Sharpe. I might have Lillard in there. And on the other side, I know he was terrible, and it's kind of nerve wracking to play Horton Tucker. Like, you know what I mean? You got a glimpse of it the other night. Doesn't even play down the stretch of an important game.
Nope.
And it's very nerve-wracking when that happens. But he also has the ability to go completely nuts. I don't think I'm going to play him tonight, personally. Chris Dunn, like they really gave him. They let him just completely take over, play all the minutes down the stretch. He played 31 minutes. He put up 42 fantasy points. He was really good. I'm probably going to let him say, okay, you know what? Sorry, I didn't play Chris Dunn again tonight because I don't think I can quite get there unless I knew for sure Markkanen was out. And Markkanen, I think, is probably going to play tonight. So I'm kind of off of the Utah side, which is a little bit of a shame because I'd like to get some action going in case something weird happens with Lillard late. What do you have here?
Yeah, I have those Portland guys as good values already because of Anthony Simons being out.
Mm-hmm.
So Sharpe, Watford, Nurkic, and Lillard I have as a good play also. So I would probably be inclined to put Lillard in a lineup because you could pivot off of that to Lakers and Phoenix guys,
Mm-hmm.
at a similar price
Mm-hmm.
in the utility. So if you wait and wait and wait, and then it's like 8:30, I mean, it's possible he doesn't get ruled out till 8:30. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Then you could always pivot there. And if not, and if he's out, then I would leave room for for these other Portlands. And I like the idea that they're decent plays anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll be I'm with you with this I don't want to say Lillard speculation, but this Lillard possibility. I'll kind of adjust my evening to account for that possibility.
Yeah, and I may be a day or two early, but the whole point is to try and get early on this stuff. You know what I mean? Like if you can be right one time on something like that, you're gonna make a lot.
Honestly, what you're supposed to do, to want to know the truth, you're just supposed to bet Utah right now.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, they're only 5-point favorites. I guess that's fair.
Yeah, you bet him, and if he plays, then you probably made a break-even bet. Whatever. And if not,
right,
then you have like a 5-point advantage. Whatever.
It's a really, really good point. Yep. All right. Phoenix and LA. What do you got? What do you have here?
Anthony Davis at 10-4. He's my top play from the game. And then I Booker next. And I don't have an issue playing these guys. So maybe Davis, Booker. Anything good on the value side? Nothing really. I'm seeing 3,700. I mean, I'm not playing Bismack Biyombo, but that's just what I see as like a decent, a decent point per dollar play. I don't even know if he's playing or whatever it is, but that's what I'm seeing. Oh, because Ayton is out, right? Okay, yeah. I didn't realize this. So I presume one of these two, Landale or Biyombo, is gonna project to be a good play. Right, I'm just presuming. I don't know exactly which one it's going to be yet, but I was wondering why I saw Biyombo near the top there. So I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. Like, it's not like these guys even played all the center minutes the other night. Like,
I didn't even know. Okay.
They played 34 minutes between the two of them. Really hard for me to try. The only thing is, it is a placeholder in a late game. Like, there is some value in that, very, very important game for both teams. The Lakers are trying to get back into the playoff. They're right there with the Jazz. They have one more loss, but anyway, it's very whatever. They're percentage points for the 10th spot right now, and the Suns are trying to hang on to the 4th spot to hold off the Clippers so they could at least host the first round of the playoffs. So this is a big game for both teams. To be honest with you, I am not going to say no to anybody on Phoenix today. Especially Chris Paul and Devin Booker. I know Devin Booker's price. There's a little bit of sticker shock there. I think it's actually where he should have been priced, where he should be priced. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can play him because I don't know. Yeah, we know he has a ceiling, but I think that Chris Paul is the one I'm going to end up deciding on. I think he's my favorite because I like the savings, and it's just hard because Booker can get 50 and have a really good game, and that's not. I don't want that for 9,900. I want 60s and 70s, and he can get there, but I need a certain thing to happen. But I love running these guys with Davis. I think Davis is one of the best plays on the slate. I actually think he's my favorite spend up on the slate. I know the last couple of games he didn't get there. I understand that people are going to say, oh, but look, he's had this spot before and we haven't seen that 60-plus game in a while. I will go out on a limb and say Anthony Davis will score over 60 fantasy points tonight. And I feel pretty good about that. I actually feel really good about that. So I love the idea of running Chris Paul, especially with Davis, as two of my core plays, actually. And
that's interesting. You prefer Paul just because of the price over Booker.
Just the price. Like, if I can get Booker in easily, I would be happy to do it.
Yeah.
But it's just the price. It just makes it a little bit easier with Chris Paul. Because I'm sort of skeptical on the value. The value looks pretty clear with Conchar, Shaedon Sharpe, Aldama, Kyle Lowry will show up, for some people. But I don't feel as great about it as I'd like. But my guess is by the time we revisit this stuff at 6, we're going to have a lot more value.
There just always is.
There just always is, and this time of year especially. Although, we've had a couple slates lately where there wasn't really a ton of news. It's kind of surprised me a little bit. Clay is asking about FanDuel. I will touch on FanDuel. Let's see.
Yeah, we have to because Clay, he got me a little bit of money back by making me look at FanDuel, making me look at Marvin Bagley. So you have to.
Hey, I just won $10K on FanDuel the other night, so I'm happy to look at FanDuel. The biggest things that stand out, Xavier Tillman stands out as a much better play over there.
Yep.
All the other guys, the other values I mentioned are sort of the same. I think you're going to see more guys like Aaron Gordon, a lot more middling plays stand out. Bam is going to be more owned over there. I think a guy like Watford might be more owned over there. I think that it's easier to get to a Jokic. Pretty easy on both sides if you want to. But mostly it's more similar than most slates, I'd say, at the moment on FanDuel. Everybody else we talked about liking, I think, is pretty similar on FanDuel. Sheets, do you have any other big ones?
I have the same thoughts that you did. So Tillman, these are like the upgrades, right? So Tillman, Gordon, you just mentioned. It's hard to say that Kyle Anderson, that feels real expensive for him for some reason, 7,500. Okogie always looks like a play on Phoenix and never gets there. He's 5,600. Yeah, he was pretty chalky the other day at like 5,100.
Yeah, because he just keeps fitting into that middling build.
Yeah,
He had a stretch earlier this year where he was just crushing too, but it's kind of fallen off a little bit. Okogie's fine. I don't think there's anything special over there. But I will touch more on FanDuel later today.
Actually, you know what? Just because he's here, just for fun, we'll run one Saber sim build with just for FanDuel, and we'll see what we got. We could guess, but it's so funny they have a spelling issue between KJ and Kenyon Martin. I have to keep it. Nasir Little is out. Okay, so let's build. We'll build 150 just for the hell of it. And see what we would get. I would imagine. Actually, I don't even know what I would imagine. I guess we'll find out. Probably a bunch of Lillard, I suppose. Let's just see.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is, yeah, Lillard 60, but it's pretty spread out. So Lillard, Tillman, Conchar, Taylor Horton Tucker is getting more juice over here. Jamal Murray. So it's sort of, like you said, sort of middling. Oh, there you go. Mateus Thybulle, 4,500. He's getting a little bit, but yeah, the guys that we thought would be upgrades. So Tillman, Taylor Horton Tucker. I forgot about him. Not getting to the Aaron Gordon too. So yeah, that's what I'd come up with. But Lillard would be the play.
Yeah, and to Jolly's question, Gabriel from the Lakers, no, is my answer to that. Look, we weren't even like, not everybody was even playing. Like, he had one game without Anthony Davis. You're not gonna like, and the fact that he had a good game against Dallas, like, because he had one 30 fantasy point game, I'm going to play him at 4,300. No, thank you. I will not have Running Gabriel in any lineups unless anything changes and we find out somebody else for the Lakers is out or something. Personally, just answer that.
Yeah, I kind of like him as a player, Gabriel. Actually,
I like him as a player. I don't see why you would play him with Davis there.
Yeah.
Wait, there's news coming in. Kyle Kuzma has been ruled out. All right, we already assumed that, so that at least we're okay.
Okay, all right.
And sadly, there was another shooting. So every time I look at my phone, I get
where now?
Denver. Crazy. It's literally every alert. It's horrible. All right. Anyway, guys, we'll see you live at 6 Eastern. I will post my stuff this afternoon early, probably around 1 my time. And let's make some money tonight. It should be a fun one. We have the live sweat show at 11 Eastern. Don't forget, everybody. And we'll have some fun with it. Hopefully we got some sweats, and we'll talk a little bit of the golf that I didn't get involved in because of my power outage. So,
and we also have, by the way, we have 2 p.m. Brave Jayhawk and I are going to be talking about NCAA Survivor Pool stuff because we're still kind of in that.
Oh, awesome.
And if you guys want to root for something, you can root for JJ Spawn to somehow hold on. He had a 3 shot. He was up 3. And then he's been trying to collapse a little bit, but he's still up 1 on the 11th. And he's actually right now. I don't want to get canceled. He's putting for birdie, and he makes it. Let's go +2.
Oh, all right.
+2 over Fitzpatrick, which is very, very good.
That's huge.
And and what I did, by the way, it took me forever, but I uploaded my projections into. So what happened is Rick did put on his site like an optimizer with all of those rules that that are necessary to make it a perfect lineup. Mm-hmm. And normally what I would do is I would just double check his work to make sure, before I just put money in, what I mean? But I just kind of trusted him on this one. So I ran my sheets. I put my sheets in his thing, and I just ran lineups with there and just basically put them in blind. And I ended up with 70% JJ Spawn at the flat minimum. So we will see what happens. But so far, +2 is always good. So
that's huge. Yeah. Get him one more, and you can feel pretty good about it.
Yeah.
All right. All right, man. Well, good luck, and I'll see you guys 6 Eastern.
6 o'clock.
Good luck, guys.